Hello, this is the podcast We Are All Psychic, and we are Amish today. We decided not to be psychic anymore. And this is Willie, if you're watching, and if you're not listeners, this is Willie.
Hello.
He said he was like psychic.
And
I was going to say
Lisa.
you wanted... thank you. He didn't, Lisa, and my hair is did with a scarf today, listeners and watchers. So I have a question for you, Willie, right away. Do you think we're all psychic?
Yes. Loudly, I do.
No, why? Why do you think that?
Well, theoretically, it makes more sense as a species that we have intuition towards one another, not just motherly intuition, but like protective intuition. Also, the fact, my big reason that I riff on believing yes is because of all the unsaid things that happen in life that we all maneuver around that's never spoken about, but it's like the quote-unquote elephant in the room. Like a lot of times when we work in certain work atmospheres we're not comfortable in, we kind of adopt a mask. Now we do this as like a protection thing metaphysically, but it also comes from knowing that there's certain boundaries that haven't been established but are still there. So yes, I do believe because of social navigation, I do think we're all psychic.
Because of social navigation? Whoa, we've never heard that answer. That's a high five. Thank you. I like your answer, Willie. So listeners and watchers, Willie and I met at an open mic with Matt Awesome. If you saw his podcast a couple months ago, about a month ago, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Awesome was on.
3 weeks and some change.
And we all jammed together, and that's how I met Willie.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a good time. So, but first I want to ask you, that was a really great answer, and I want to ask about where you where did you get that answer from? Because that was really thought out, and I think you've always, when I first told you about the podcast, you were like, yeah, we're all psychic.
I was itching.
You jumped on, look, there's a black butterfly. Do you see it? I told you there's a lot of black butterflies out here.
That's very pretty.
There's another one.
I'm glad that situations had us out here sitting down, because this is way more chill and relaxed.
Yeah.
Sitting down with the butterflies
in the
and stuff.
grass. Yeah, it's nice.
I'm liking this location, but I think one reason I kind of think the way I think is, for lack of better terms, I've went through, in your life you go through several kind of spiritual awakenings. Around 2012, I kind of unplugged from society and kind of became a drifter. I've always had this thing where I'm kind of introverted and extroverted at once. I kind of come in and out of those modalities. But one of the things that happened, being a hitchhiker, being a street performer, just being like a vagabond life is a lot of the reason for that happening is having this severe need for alone time. And in that alone time, you kind of build like a mental library of things that you think about, and you kind of form like, not to sound crazy, but you kind of get this kind of internal dialogue going, and something like being psychic comes up because, there was times I lived on hippie communes, the things with tarots and healing crystals and going to music festivals and dropping L and mushrooms.
Yeah.
All that stuff's fun, and it's a lot easier to do when you're in your 20s.
Yes.
But a lot of the residue of that kind of marinating, I turned 40 this year. A lot of those things now, thank you, I made it to 40.
Yes.
A lot of those things kind of have time to marinate, and it's kind of like a silent education that goes on, because you've got all this experience and you wake up late at night thinking, what does it all mean? And then some days you get lucky and you get on a podcast and the answer comes out your mouth. So there we are.
He found his answer on a podcast, and we didn't know what a podcast was when he first thought that question, right?
Wait,
in 1982, or when did you first start thinking about this stuff? Did you have any experiences?
I always had an interest in radio.
Like frequencies and...
Well, my big thing was, I'm a millennial, so a lot of us weirder millennial cats, we grew up on like Art Bell and George Norrie, and a lot of the guests he would have on would talk about clairvoyant stuff. They'd talk about esoteric things.
Yes.
A lot of religious things, world issues. So you're kind of in the midst of being infatuated as a teenager with late night radio. You're kind of getting spoon-fed some of these ideas that, even though I grew up in a Christian household, there was always the flirtation with more than new age stuff.
Yeah.
So you kind of...
Why is that in your family in particular?
I think a lot of it's culturally placed, because Alabama being such a traditional place, a lot of people, your beliefs are your beliefs, and you need beliefs, and you need a cornerstone, and you need a navigation, you need a North Star. But a lot of times, a lot of those things are kind of institutionalized into you to where you've grown up around those things generationally, culturally. They're embedded in you. Me, I was weird enough to kind of leave that, come back to it, leave. I kind of come and leave back between things. So in the long run, I'm kind of considering myself agnostic, because there are pieces of Christianity that I do truly believe. There's also things that are not so Bible-based that I believe, because of experiences that were just too real to deny.
Exactly, and that's what I'd love to hear more about. But first, I do want to let the listeners and watchers know he is a Nashville citizen for 20 years. He didn't want to make that statement on this podcast. I didn't want you to forget.
We're good.
And also, he is from Alabama, and we are not in Alabama right now.
No.
We'll have that very clear.
We're very so
We're
much
not in Alabama.
In Nashville. We're down here by the water, by Ascend Amphitheater, and Nashville's a great place because there's always something happening. There's always someone doing something creative, whether what they're doing you like it, enjoy it, or it resonates or not. But there's always something going here. It's almost too much to keep up with.
That's true. I mean, I live downtown and I can feel it. The energy of it is pumping all night.
It doesn't sleep here.
It doesn't sleep, but it also has a kind of like a moment in the early morning around 4 to 6.
Yeah.
It's just kind of sleeps. It's just kind of like a slow kind of.
About 5 a.m. is about the only time you could drop a quarter on Broadway and roll and you hear it.
Yeah, you'll hear it. And Broadway is the street in Nashville that everybody goes crazy on, and that's the party street. Like
Party Mecca.
It kind of reminds me not of New Orleans or Bourbon Street, but of that same kind of party feel. Because Bourbon Street always had the mystical feel, but this doesn't yet.
This Broadway,
it does have music magic. It has music magic all the way over.
It does have music magic. It's a different music magic than Bourbon Street. That's a whole nother level.
That's a different. Yeah, that's different. We could go there.
It's kind of like our Broadway in Nashville. It's kind of similar to 6th Street in Austin, but way more mega triple bar loud. The pedal taverns and all that.
Jazz. Yeah, the little holes in the wall there.
A little bit more dollars and cents turning.
Yeah, that's true. And not much common sense, just like Nashville. That's something they have in common. Just kidding. I love that there's no common sense here. And they do have common sense to me as far as compared to Alabama.
Yeah, it's a little bit more cultural
freedom.
melting pot, because I've met
cultural melting pot.
I've met people here from Scotland to Egypt. I've met people from every place you could think of in Nashville.
Like everywhere, and they come from everywhere to see us.
This isn't a plug, but I'll say it because I'm thinking about the alcoholism of the party life down there. The cheapest beer you can get down there is for $2.50 at Roberts. Ooh. So there's my Roberts plug. I need a bar back job. I'll show that. This isn't a commercial.
It'd be really lucky if they saw that.
Shooting the shot.
So, listeners, I was asking Willie if he would talk to me about, and if you're a regular listener, I've talked about jamming in bands a lot, and music generally. Jamming is like a psychic experience, and he actually said that before I finished a sentence when I was suggesting that as us touching on that in the podcast. And I was like, yeah, because it is like you. Well, how would you put it?
I'll put it this way. So you enter a situationship with musicians where you're taking in like, hey, let's jam. And then you take the next step and you actually meet up and jam. And then there's a certain amount of chemistry and off the rip that you can or cannot work with. In like luckier situations, like in bands I've been in before, like when I was younger, I was in a band that had a lot of chemistry. That chemistry is like very known off the first couple hours of jamming.
It's so true. Even sometimes 5 minutes,
You know that you've got something here that's going to work and be able to be a project. The thing that gets crazier is a year or so into that project, the jams and the writing become so intense that you're in these moments on stage where there's like telepathic moments to where like the drummer and the bass player and the guitarist, we're all breathing as if we're
breathing.
We're like breathing, or it's like fingers on one hand. There's like all the instruments become like a collective instrument. And that's where a lot of telepathic things happen, but that's also where like a lot of drama happens because people start getting in their heads and each other's heads and motives. Like I had a scenario with the drummer one time where we got so intuitively locked in that if my mood microscopically changed on or off stage, he kind of
did too.
We were at a point where we were like micro-abrasively reading each other, and it turned from love to toxic. Now years later we made up, but there was a moment where and you can see why like so many great bands through history have broken up, because there's all like they get so locked into that amoeba of the band collective that like just weird, unexplainable.
It's like a family.
Yeah,
it is like
it's
a weird
that.
family. A weird family.
It's like it's
like the family
yeah.
you didn't pick. It is like that, like
Like little brother's mad because big sister's acting a certain way, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So that. But
yeah. I just they always end in sad stories, but you do feel pulled to work with those people for some reason. Maybe that's the spiritual reason you do it. So you grow through it or you don't. Yeah. My bands, a lot of them ended, for people moved. That was the big reason. Like the girl band I was in, I think the bass player moved away. And then one of the bands I was in with a boyfriend. That's never a good idea. I think it can be a good idea, but we broke up and the band ended, We didn't want to do it that way, but it did. And other bands I was in with husband at one time, didn't work out because I got divorced, And so it's not a good idea to make your money or your music where you got honey, I think. But I was taught that at every job I've ever been at, so I don't think I've learned it yet.
I'm not going to name the band by name, but there is a particular band in Nashville that's a couple that they're so on point, that they're so locked in that it's like if there's a one couple out there that's really tearing it up as a couple band. And
you can say it.
I'm going to leave it alone. I'll just let people poke around and figure out. But it's a hot act.
It's a hot act. And I wanted to ask you. So you played when we jammed together. You played guitar, right? And I played keys, but you also play bass.
I flirt with the bass, but my other instrument is the mandolin when I do bluegrass.
I haven't heard you play mandolin.
I haven't played mandolin out in a couple of years. It's been years, but I still consider it my secondary instrument.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm just very in tune with electric guitars these days.
Well, I know when we started jamming that night, we synced up almost immediately because I just told you the two chords I was playing back and forth, and then I think I threw a third one in. It was as complicated and then I don't remember anything. It just went. That's how it happened for me. And I was like, I can't play with Willie. That's kind of how I felt. I can't play with Willie. This is fun,
That got recorded. It had some real good bounce to it. A lot of friction and resolve.
Well, you couldn't really hear the keys in that recording because I had it turned down for me because I could.
True.
Yeah, I thought it was really loud. It sounded loud.
This would have picked the jam up better. This is really clear sounding.
Oh yeah, this thing would. Yeah, this one might pick up the whole. If I have two of them, so we could try it out left and right.
There will be experimentation in the future.
We shall see. And so where can the listeners find any of your music or find anything out about you?
I'm on YouTube as William Eli Cosper, Cosper. It's like Casper with an O. I'm also on Instagram, William Eli Cosper. But right now it's just Instagram and YouTube. I'm working on maybe putting up a band camp. I got a friend from Springwater, Kenny, that's building a studio right now. I want to cut some originals around this winter and kind of make a band camp from a project that me and Kenny Owens have going. He's a guy that I know from Springwater that's from Hendersonville. He's a songwriter. He goes up to Jolton, Tennessee and plays at I think it's the something garage up in Jolton. It's kind of a bluegrass songwriter spot, but I'm working on an EP, probably about 10 songs, all original. But far as right now, it's just Instagram, YouTube. But that's where I'm at right now. And also just going to Springwater and Friends every month when Matt Awesome hosts out at Friends on Dickerson Road.
That's where we played. That's where we jammed. Was at Friends, I think. Yeah.
That's where we met too.
That's where we met too. Yeah. I thought I'd met you at Sweetwater, but I guess not. Yeah. I met so many people the first two times I went that it kind of all blurry, and I don't remember faces.
Yeah.
Facial recognition. I don't know if I told you that.
Well,
I usually have a few beers at these places.
For some reason, we're never in Springwater at the same time.
Well, I haven't been there. I've been sick. I had a podcast one week, and I was sick the next week. Things keep in the way of the rock, and it shouldn't, people. That's my advice. Don't let it get in the way of the rock.
Well, that's what's so fun about the creative process as a musician is there's always one more thing to chase that's never ending. There's always another angle of let's do it this way, that way, let's try to do it better. Being a musician could drive you crazy.
Wonder it really makes sense that a lot of musicians are conceptual thinkers, and I've always gotten along really well with musicians. I don't know why, but they're all conceptual thinkers. I can talk openly with musicians about any of this psychic stuff usually, and they get it if they haven't learned about it before.
I find most
Or
musicians
an artist would, or a reader would, even, or something like that if they'd never heard of it. Musicians are, they can take concepts better. Sorry, I can't explain it.
There's an analytical thing that comes to being a musician that's really odd, because no one's analytics are exactly the same, but it's still analytical. So you kind of like try to put pieces together and see if they fit.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't fit, but you gotta like try.
Sometimes that makes it better later. Like the girl band I was in, like few of us, I was just learning my guitar, and a couple of girls didn't know their instruments at all. So in the beginning of that band, we sucked very badly, but it was good. We had fun, and then we practiced and learned.
You know what though?
And it changed. The whole sound changed.
It takes a lot of courage. This sounds like the worst advice ever, but it does take a lot of courage to have whether it's like your solo thing or a project. It does take a lot of courage to get through that time period where things kind of do suck, because you got to commit and just believe that at some point it won't suck.
So true.
And that could take a couple months. That could take 2 years.
That can be your entire life.
But the committing to be like, one day this little turd will be a diamond.
Yes.
Takes nerve.
And it may be a diamond to other people already. You don't even know it.
It's like the Grateful Dead. The first couple Grateful Dead records are pretty garage and pretty like not. But they eventually got to like Europe 72. So there we go.
So, I guess at this point, I want to thank my sponsor, Everclear. Everclear is an advice app and website where you can get advice from psychics and empaths. My goodness.
Calamity.
Everclear, that was for you. That building just fell for you. Thank you, Everclear.
I like the sound effects. That was cool. I hope that picked up.
I hope it did pick up. I don't know if it will, but if you didn't, if that didn't record listeners and watchers, it was a whole bunch of conundrum. It was a building falling, for sure. Don't you think it was?
It sounded like something like they had the dump,
scaffold,
like that dump, or maybe it had something to do with the construction of the new football field.
That's over that way, though.
True,
could be echoing.
We don't know. We're speculating.
We're supposed to be psychic here. It was a building.
We'll go with that.
It was a building. An eagle hit a building, and yeah, it's over. So, listeners and watchers, I want to say thank you very much. And lastly, Willie, do you love the listeners and the watchers?
I love them. I send love to them, so they'll send love back to me. Love, light, and abundance, and all that jazz.
All that jazz. It's from me. Jazz.
She gifted me a tarot, so this is awesome.
A tarot. So they say in New Orleans. And listeners and watchers, I love you too. Peace out. Bye.